I'll tell him I said, hey, I think he said he might be coming down to Florida. Tell him, I think I'm around. So I got two conferences in, October. So I'll be in like Las Vegas for a week and then San Diego. Maybe I could shoot up to come see you guys because I had like a week in between Las Vegas and San Diego. So maybe that'll work. Otherwise, I'll be around in November. Tell the coach so he can shoot to my house in November. You should come too, Mr. Craig. We can have a reunion. Yes. All right. So tell Cody, and he can come over to the house anytime in November, just not the first week. So I got to go to Miami. What's going on, people? How you doing? Good morning. You ain't getting a little spike in Netflix right now. So let's take a look at the market. Hope everybody's doing well, trading well. We got things to do. Things to do. Cool. So, markets yesterday actually pretty strong. We had a little bit of haphazardness at the open, which has been happening a lot. Like where we're getting a little bit of this chop where you're getting like down, up, down, up, down, up. But otherwise, we did end up finishing okay. We're just grinding along. We did have like a gap in the morning, but we're already faded back and opening up red. So that'll be something that we'll have to kind of keep mind of. Right now, the market is just in a range, and that can happen. Once you get into, when you get into a trending environment, having, short-term corrections or building like ranges for a month is really common. Right, no market just goes up like every single day. So, we're kind of in just the norm. We're having a little bit of red day. We may come down and kind of retest a little bit, but as this range tightens up, probabilities tell us that, right, we break to the upside. That's just how trends work. But overall, market's looking okay. S&P's back to the 20 SMA tune. You can see it's already fading off its gap today, which is totally fine. The S&P, you don't want to get too worried unless you start to break under 290.50, right? So kind of keep that on the sweet spot if you're looking, to get either long or short. Always think about inflection points, right? And so if we come back to 290.5, that's probably where we want to maybe add a little bit more longs and get aggressive. Just the nature of the game right now. One thing to remember in bull markets, like, you always want to kind of short stuff when the market gets weak, but typically those dips to support have been getting bought, and, we've been having really big bounces off weakness. So, don't get too rowdy with that stuff. Not that many earnings plays necessarily today. We've got ALDX, which is kind of busting out the highs, but it may fade here. So, you got to be careful. Unless this thing gets over 12, you can't really take any longs in it. When you get like a gap or like on some type of PR earnings, if it's stuck under that breakout spot, it doesn't necessarily have the juice, right? So you can only take it if it gets over 12, and only then if you start to see intraday setups, right? So like if you start to see this thing hold 12 and then start to build a pattern, then you could take it intraday. But when you fade off this hard, like pre-market, all these sellers are just resistance at that point, right? And so you just get stuck with too much supply, so it's just no good. This GoPro's starting to actually kind of creep out of range. It looks like they've announced that, they got the Hero 7 coming out and they're going to be profitable end of the year, blah, 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 blah. But overall, like, it's been consolidating since June. This very well may have the juice here today. You're already starting to see some nice action pre-market. So I keep that one on watch. Also, really the focus list today is going to be a handful of names. Hey, Nolan, what's up, baby? Long time no see. The focus list today, first play, this I was up 20% yesterday on 8 million shares in volume. You can see it had an all-day trender, which is really good. When you get that kind of compression breakout, so this is essentially a compression breakout, meaning that, when you get like something that's like a wide range and you tighten and you tighten and you tighten and you compress that range, when you finally come out of it, because that's about a 2-month pattern right there, when you finally come out of it, you can really get some nice juice. So you've had 4 tests of resistance, You've come out, so that's check. So when you think about trading, right, you're always building a case. Like, what are the reasons that I would want to get into a particular stock, right? Or look at a particular stock. And so you've got essentially a checklist, right? Does it have a price pattern? Sure. But did the volume confirm it? Sure. Are there clean levels to trade around? Check, right? How was the intraday action? Check, right? How was it moving in relation to its peers or the general market? Check, right? What's the flow? Check. And so now what you're doing is you're running off of a checklist when you look at a particular stock. That's how you analyze it, right? And so this one checks off all the boxes. And so today it's opening up pretty much flat, but if you see a dump at the open, we'll look to red to green this thing. If it starts off hot, which it just might because the float's low, watch that high watch that 27.50 high from yesterday. If it busts over, you may start to get a run in this bad boy. So this thing may just come right out of the gate. So just keep an eye on that one. That's my favorite play for today. SQ is our second favorite. 28 million shares in volume. I mean, that's a monster number. I mean, to move 10% on a $35 billion company is already pretty impressive, but it's a good trader in general. You can see here, after the gap up, you did the quick pullback buy. That's like the go-to setup on SQ, by the way. Because its float's a little bit higher, it doesn't ORB properly because its float's a little bit thicker, right? It's at 283 million. So like it'll have strength and then it'll fade off to the 9 EMA, and it usually starts to collect around there on those kind of deeper pullbacks, and then it goes. The one thing I've noticed with SQs, if you just draw like horizontal lines on and do like a flat top breakout or flag breakouts, things like that, it doesn't move as clean. Heavier float stocks, you always want to get them on pullbacks, where like lower float stocks, you can hit them on breakouts, if that makes sense. So kind of always think about that, like what's the thickness of the stock, because that's where, that's going to define like how you do your entries and exits on it. And so this one's a little bit thicker, but it moves pretty well. Then we got this Planet Fitness. This one also came out of breakout yesterday. Volume confirmed it. You came out of this kind of compression. Had a really nice trend yesterday. So this one will be another one that's on the list. For me, I mean, this one looks like, frankly, if it pulls a little bit, it actually looks like I had it on my watch list for a swing trade. And Carrie, one of my students, put this on her list. I'm like, you know what? This guy's actually got pretty good range on it, the way it was moving. So I keep this one on the list too. It looks pretty good. Still watching Lulu here for that 160 break. It is retail. Retail sucks to trade in general. Always sucks to trade. But if this thing does get over 160, it usually does have enough juice to get going. And so that could also turn into a swing trade, a multi-day hold, if it can break and close over 160. So, for me, I hate day trading retail stocks. They're the worst. And I don't know why I have that bias. It might just be because we've always hated retail stocks. From when we started the chat room, they've always just stunk. But they actually this year have been great swing traders. So if you get a close over 160, but you don't want it too far off the breakout spot, I'll actually consider taking this one for a swing. For some of you guys that are more degenerate gamblers, you could take like, the weekly or bi-weekly options on something like this to get a little bit more juice. Roku, with SQ going, usually these things have always these tech stocks, Roku and SQ have been the hot stocks of this year. I'd watch this one right at that 74 spot. It did get shaken off at the 74 yesterday. One thing with Roku is don't chase it into spikes at resistance. Roku, when it wants to move, will really move, but you got to really time it right, because if you look at like its last so many days, like it'll give you false signals where you think it's going to go and then it comes back and then it goes. And so a couple things to do: trade in a smaller size. You may have to scale in. Don't chase any spike into it under 74 because it's under resistance. So if you chase a spike into the 74, you're just going to hit resistance and you're kind of coming back down, right? You can chase the spike if it's getting over 74, and then you can start running the gamut of patterns. But under 74, you can only hit it on big dips, and that's the difference between a stock that's is acting in consolidation versus a stock that's acting in a breakout. When you're acting in a breakout, then what you can do is buy the thrust over the breakout, right? But if you buy a thrust and it's under resistance, you're just going to come into resistance and come back down. And so when you're under the resistance, you've got to hit the dips on it and then sell into the resistance, right? So those are the two different aspects of trading that you've got to always get really into. When you think about trading, it's like, sometimes we're just so focused on the intraday charts. We're thinking, oh man, breakout, breakout, breakout. But you've got to really think about what's happening on the big picture. Where's the support? Where's the resistance? And how do you trade around this for the ebb and flow on that? And so that'll just be something to kind of keep in mind. AMD, same type of deal. It's kind of just acting like this because it's right under its old high. It's just getting faded off on these spikes right now. So, I haven't taken the trade in this in a couple days, but we're watching it. This CVM still could go any day. Watch that $4 break. This Elon's an IPO that actually looks pretty tight. The day of the IPO, it popped up about 40 million shares in volume. It's been consolidating on really low volume, but still got good liquidity, 3-4 million shares. If you look at its kind of 30-minute chart, it's really starting to tighten up its range over here. So like you kind of ping-ponging back and forth. Over today, this thing should kind of keep tightening up, and then watch this thing if it kind of busts through that 35-ish level. We may get some action on this one. It moves pretty well. We were trading this on the IPO day, and I fucked up the trade. So now I'm due for some revenge. A revenge trade is awesome as long as you make money. Revenge trading is bad if you lose money. So always the nature of the game. Still watching this Arla over here. Now this thing's down like 8-9 days in a row. The problem with it is just grinding down. What we need to see, like for us to actually do a rubber band long, what are the parameters of a rubber band long, guys? Right? You need extreme oversold stochastics. You need a strong pierce of the lower Bollinger Band, strong pierce, and then you need some kind of red to green action. So that'll be something to kind of keep in mind on. I won't personally play this Joan because after a big fade like that yesterday, see I went from 11 down to 6, you can't trust the gaps. These could just be dead cat bounces. And so, personally, I leave those alone. Ooh, you know what? I forgot about this. I didn't have it on my list, but I'm adding it right now. Good. So add this to one of our tops because this is awesome. So good job, Sherman. 1 test, 2 test, 3 test, 4 tests. This thing's got the juice on this. So I like this one a lot also. Add this one. Boom. And then, yes, you can add TTD also. Man, this thing moved nicely yesterday too, right? You had that ORB. So these are actually, add all these. These are going to be to the top of the list. Guys, watch the tech stocks today, all right? So then now we know, right? TTD, Twilio, Roku, SQ, as you know. So those are the hot ones. Stay away from the weeds and, some of this other junk because there's hotter plays out there right now. So that's where we really want to focus. We don't want to get caught in the dust around this thing. So as always, it's time to go out and make some money. It's go time. It's show time. Let's go out and do what we do and go make some money. My friends, be real, be fast, trade well.